Hello everybody, Steve Griffiths here, developer of the MTPredictor software program. If you could all let me know whether you can hear me okay and whether you can see the risk disclaimer and the chart behind okay, then we can get going. Right, so just to remind you all that all examples in this training room should be considered as hypothetical. No trades are actually taken. They're just shown for illustration and training purposes only. Remind you there's a risk of loss in trading and investing. Put another way, all professional traders know and understand, but more importantly, accept that losing trades can and will and do happen. Doesn't matter what trading approach you take, there always will be some losing trades. Right, today I thought we'd try and do a bit more advanced analysis, as most of the people in the room today are fairly experienced with MTPredictor. Just take the risk disclaimer down. And if I go to our standalone program and Forex, if you remember last week, we were looking at the Euro JPY, weren't we? We were looking at on a daily chart. Do you remember that? Where if I take all the analysis off, we had a DP from the previous low coming down into here. And we were just looking at the typical area. And what we were suggesting was then you go down to a shorter time frame chart. And what we were doing, we were looking at the Elliott wave pattern going down into this low. Remember that? So if I right mouse click here, do Elliott wave intermediate, do you remember we're looking at a 5-wave sequence down here into this low? Do you remember how we said that the only time to really use a 5-wave sequence or the end of a 5-wave sequence for a potential trade setup is when it corresponds with a higher time frame support and resistance? Because trying to pick the end of a wave 5 otherwise is quite hard work, because you're basically trying to pick the end of a trend. So do you see how it makes sense that you can do it when you're looking for higher time frame support or resistance? And our initial target of this would have been the DP from the prior wave 4. So it would have been from here. There's the DP, that one. So if I put the risk and reward around that blue buy bar at the bottom there, that would have been the initial trade set up into there. If you wanted to go for a longer trade on this one, then you should all know that once the DP from the prior wave 4 has been exceeded, then the next place to look for resistance or support, depending which way you're going, is the start of the complete 5-wave sequence. So once you've got the end of a wave 5, the initial target is the DP from the wave 4. Of course, this is also the last swing into the low, isn't it? Then the next place would be off the start of the sequence, which is here. As you can see, we haven't quite reached that yet. So it'll be interesting to see whether this cross rate does indeed carry on going up into that target there. So we'll keep an eye on it for the time being. So do you remember that from last week where we were looking at a bit more advanced analysis? Well, I've had a few people comment and saying, wouldn't it be nice to try and do a bit more advanced analysis in today's webinar, particularly as our automatic setups, if I go back to our USE minis, they've been quite sparse, the automatic setups over the last week or so. They have been quite sparse, and as we know, markets go through cycles to then have quiet times. So we are still anticipating that we are going to get some good setups because the markets go in cycles. So when you're in a period of quiet times with respect to the MTPredictor setups, then it won't be long before the cycle comes around and get some good times. But I was asked the question on whether we can do a bit more advanced analysis. So I'll just go back to our NinjaTrader 8 add-ons and have a look at the NQ from yesterday, just to show you how you can do a bit more sort of advanced analysis. You see, on the outset here, this is what we had for our setups. Remember, we don't just take our automatic setups, say, in the direction of our MTP trend. So the MTP trend was red here, so therefore you'll be avoiding these setups. It was black, so you'll be able to consider buys and sells. We don't just do that. We look for when the market pattern is clear, because we understand that basically markets go in cycles. Half the time the market's in a random pattern. So for this, we go to a higher time frame chart. So if you're on a 3-minute chart, the higher time frame would be the 15-minute. Just going to put a bit of white space on the right-hand side. Just so we can just create a bit of space. So as we go to yesterday, the obvious last swing pivot high was here. Do you see that? There's the obvious last pivot high. So if we right mouse click, do a decision point, that would give you an area of resistance. I'll just be using the typical for now. But can you all see how that's on the chart in advance? It's there before the market even gets there. And that's what we're looking to do with our DPs. We place them out there in advance, and we see whether the market then reacts at those. In other words, is the market doing what we anticipate? So what happened yesterday? Well, the market went up. Do you see how early in the day it started to reverse off this level? Do you see that? So as it started to reverse off this level, we can deem that the large degree trend is then reversing to short. So if we come back down on our shorter time frame charts, there it was initially. There's our higher time frame resistance, the 15-minute. So you would have actually had a automatic setup here to start with. Our MTP trend was grey or black, to show you in the process of making a reversal. You would add higher time frame resistance. Here's your red sell bar. So you right mouse click, do analyze trade setup. That would have been your trade setup into a potential target down here. Now, the market didn't get there. The market just got to the 100% initial risk before it started to retrace back up again. So was there any reason why you should have brought your stop to break even? Well, I don't think so, because at the time back here, this looked to be a good setup. You had higher time frame resistance. You had a sell setup. Our MTP trend was grey or black. Therefore, that looked like it would have been a good setup. So there's no reason, I don't think, to bring your stop to break even. So this would have actually been a losing trade. It's important to understand that losses can and will and do unfold. So, you know, whatever we do, there always will be losing trades. It's really, really important to show this, that there will be losses. This is why we use position sizing. In this case, on a less than 2% of a sample $20,000 account, that means you'd be short one contract. So if it had made the target, it would have been a profit of almost 6 times that, but it didn't. It made a loss. It would be a 1R losing trade. So that's just important to understand. But what I wanted to show you is as the market started to reverse here, we're still at high time frame resistance. The market started to come down here, started to come down, made a low there, started to trace back again. Our MTP trend started to go red. So can you see how at this point in time, if this is deemed to be a high on a higher time frame chart, what's happening now? What's unfolding now? We've had the initial decline down. We're then getting a correction back up again. So what do we normally start to look for here? After we've had a reversal at a higher time frame resistance, we've therefore deemed the larger degree trend to be down. What do we normally start looking for here? Question to you all, you guys. And this is what I was looking for yesterday. Yep, exactly. You're all right. You're looking for an ABC correction, basically a TS, well, a W3 or wave 3 trade. Now, of course, that didn't happen because the market carried on down. But what I want to show you is, as the market is retracing back up here, we have some more advanced tools available in our add-ons and our MTPredictor 8. The first of these is our WPTs. So you probably don't use these much, actually. But what you can do now is, as that's the initial move coming down, the initial correction back up, ideally should go into the wave 2 or B, because you're looking for a wave 2 or B correction back up here. So you can place that on the chart. You can do manual WPT. This will be a WPT up. So you're looking for a wave 2 or B retracement area. See, there's 2 clicks on the chart. It says select the beginning of the wave 1, which would obviously be the high. Select the end of the wave 1, which will be the low here. And can you see how Very frustrating the way NinjaTrader doesn't draw it until you get to a certain level. But you know, that would have been on the chart there available for you. It means it's not drawn it here at the moment because I'm trying to be clever and got a bit of white space on the right hand side. So you know, at the time you would have actually been able to see this zone. I just wanted to do it in NinjaTrader because I know some of you use a lot of you use NinjaTrader, so I wanted to do some stuff in NinjaTrader as opposed to always using our standalone version. But do you see what I'm getting at? In that this would have been the zone of where you'd anticipate a wave 2B correction to end. Do you all see that? First wave down, wave 1, correction up, potentially a wave 2 or wave 2 or B. So what happens when it got up into this level? Well, it made a red sell bar. Do you see that? So at this particular point in time, this could have been an A of an ABC correction. Let's try and do some drawing tools. So it could have been an A where that would have been possibly a B. And then that could have been a C up there later before then going down like that, couldn't it? That's what we'd normally want to look for, an A, a B, a C, to then go down in a wave 3. That's what we're normally looking for. But can you see how you're actually at the wave 2B level already? Do you see that? So what you can do is you can then construct a trade setup around that bar there. If I do then the risk reward, if I click on risk reward, I click around this red sell bar because this red sell bar is not unfolding anywhere. It's unfolding in our zone where we anticipate the wave 2B to end. So you can do a, oops, I'm just going to take these off actually. Just excuse me. Put that one back on again. So if I do the risk reward, you can develop a trade in and around that sell bar. Very frustrating actually. NinjaTrader doesn't place the lines on the chart when you've got a bit of white space on there. So actually, what I'll do, I think I'll go back into our standalone version. So, and I'll use our training mode because that just makes it a lot probably easier to see. So this is what we were looking at yesterday. So here's the situation. So this is what we're looking at: the higher time frame resistance, the initial decline going down into potential wave 1, the initial correction up made a red sell bar, but because it was at our wave 2B, this level here, you see that? It was at the level there. We're anticipating that this could, I won't say is, but it could be the corrective high before a decline down. In other words, we may not get an ABC correction. So quite a few times, you guys have probably seen it, is the first correction sometimes just unfolds as a single swing rather than an ABC. So of course, the question is, if you're going to do a trade setup around this, where would your target be? Well, Philippe has guessed me straight away. The first target, or the initial place for target, again, you use our WPT tools. WPT, in this case down. I'm going to do a wave C off this. So the first is the start of the wave A bar, which would be here, then there, and then the end of what would be a wave B. So these would be the wave C targets. If you want to do the same for a wave 3, you do it for a wave 3. Same clicks. There'd be your target for a wave 3. So do you see how you can place this all on the chart at the time? You can then do your risk reward, your manual risk reward. So here you'll be clicking on the entry bar, which would be that bar. The stop bar, which would be the same in that case. At the first target, it would be a 3.7 hour profit, which would be very nice indeed. If it got all the way down to the typical wave 3, well, that would be a 10-hour profit. That would be amazing. We also have some more information on our chart. If we go back a bit, this is the high here. Where would we place a DP on the chart to get an idea of the initial support zone? If that's the high there. It's the level that I talk about again and again and again every single webinar. So I do hope that this has been ingrained in your brains, that the last swing into a high or low, okay? I want you to echo this so many times. The last swing into the high or low is exactly, Raviar, the last swing. The last swing into the high or low is important to then take your DP off. So if you come back to this level here, right mouse click, do a decision point, that would be an area of where you'd anticipate some support. Tend to use this, the typical one here. So can you see how that falls in and around the minimum wave C? So you could actually say, well, actually, I'll take the target sort of halfway between both of them at about 4.5 R. But you see how I'm constructing a potential trade setup. We all know that then took you in quite nicely. It then started to go down quite nicely as well. And actually went down and reached the target quite nicely where a 4.5 R was available. So do you see how you can construct a trade setup, particularly of your understanding? Once you've had a clear pattern of the higher time frame resistance, initial move down, you're then looking for a single correction move up to then get a target on the way down there. And they constructed the target from the WPTs coming down and also the DP of the last swing. A word of caution. Once the market gets to look like this, what could happen now is this. Couldn't it? What could happen is this could all turn out to be an A, a B, a C, which would then go above that one, that high, before it then carries on going down. So of course, if this turns out to be an A, B, C correction, which is what we normally look for, then obviously you would be stopped out for a losing trade on this first one. So this is probably the exception to the rule, is that when you're trying to trade off a single swing correction like this, be very, very aware that it could well be just the wave A. So as the market starts to go back down again, like this, ideally perhaps into, oops, I was going to look for a wave 2 or BWPT on the way down, but once it gets down to something that looks like it could be a bottom here, then make sure you bring your stop to break even. Okay, does that make sense? So this is one that either should go with you straight away or be prepared that it will come back up and then stop you out. So you want to bring your stop to break even. Does that make sense to everyone? Why you want to bring your stop to break even closer on this particular kind of trade, because it's all too easy to then think that this could be a B up to a C to then carry on down. Now, obviously, in this particular circumstance, it didn't. It went down to the target quite nicely, and it would have been had there for a nice trade. That would have been nice, considering it would have more than made up for the -1 R loss earlier. So that would have been a nice little trade there, plus 4 or so R would have made up for the -1 R earlier to then put you in profit overall. So I just thought it was nice to be able to do a bit more advanced analysis, to be able to show you how to think a bit more, how to do some more advanced analysis. Mark, I'll be having a look at the longer term position in a little bit. We're just having a look at trying to uncover some manual trades by doing a bit more advanced analysis with some of the other tools in MTPredictor first. And of course, if you're using NinjaTrader, well then you know exactly the same. There would be the DP from the low there. That would be your target. You know, so it'd be exactly the same kind of setup there. So as you can see, if you're a bit more experienced with MTPredictor, there are some things you can do to uncover some more advanced trades. But you see how this fits in with our overall kind of strategy of wait until the picture's clear. In other words, we have a clear high time frame resistance in this case. The market is reversing at that level. We then had the initial decline down. We're then looking to play the initial correction, which ideally and normally should unfold as an ABC, but in this case it didn't, unfold as a single swing correction to then get a trade off that. Right, are there any questions on that before we go and have a quick look at excuse me, some of the longer term position? And this is all going to be recorded, so you can actually review this at your leisure as well. But hopefully it all makes sense for you guys and gives you an opportunity to uncover some more trade setups, particularly when the market's quiet on the automatic ones. Right, let's have a look at some longer term positions. On the ES, well, similar position to where we were last week, where the market went up, hit our DP resistance off this high here. The market's gone down. It's basically made a correction back up within here. And if I look at the hourly chart, this correction looks like it could be an ABC if I, but it still looks corrective, even though our MTP trend has gone blue. So I'd want to watch to see whether this high stays intact. I mean, this is what we want. We want basically the market to come in here today and start to reverse back down again. If it doesn't, well, then we could be on for a rally up to new highs. Similar position with the YM. There we are at DP resistance up there. The market started to back off yesterday after all the excitement on the announcement of the second COVID vaccine coming online. I'd have expected a big announcement like that to not only have had a big market move, but actually to push the market to keep it going on higher, if you know what I mean. It hasn't carried on through on that initial euphoria last week of the announcement of the first vaccine. It hasn't carried on going. So it says to me that we still are in an area of where we might be putting in a top. Similar kind of thing with the NASDAQ. Looks like we're in a corrective ABC there. In fact, the correction back up here has been far less than all the excitement we had this time last week. So it's still a very interesting position on the longer term position on the major stock markets. So I think, Mark, that's probably what you're thinking as well, is it? That until we take out that high of the NASDAQ, the high last week on the other indexes, then I don't think we're in a position to rally to new highs as of yet. But obviously, if it takes them out, well, then obviously we have to then reevaluate that. It looks like there'll be strength coming in from there. So we'll see how we go today on those. Yep, I agree with you, Mark. Not only that, but if you just look at the position here, the rally up in the last couple of days on the NASDAQ has been weaker. Yep, it has been weaker. Perhaps if we look at a 4-hourly chart. Well, there you go. That says it all on a 4-hourly chart, doesn't it? Even though MTP trend is blue, there's your rally back up on a 4-hourly chart. Yep. It could be at a wave 2 or B. You're absolutely exactly right. So that wave 2 or B looks like it might be subdividing down there on the 4-hourly chart. If you go to the daily, we'll have to wait and see, but definitely worth watching, that is. Right, let's go and have a look at some Forex charts. The we've already had a look at the Euro JPY earlier in the webinar, where we were looking at our manual 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 going into higher time frame support there, and seeing whether the market's going to carry on going up to higher time frame resistance. If it does, that'll be an 8.5 hour profit. We haven't got there yet. It's still sitting in no man's land. Yeah, Raviar, the MTP trend is blue in the last chart. Yep, you're dead right. It is blue. It wouldn't be a trade setup as such, but we're just looking to see whether that, from a pattern perspective only, looked like a corrective swing, is what we're looking at, rather than this an MTPredictor setup. Mark, who I was talking with, is he trades in the city. He's been around for a very, very long time, so talking a bit sort of more advanced stuff with him there. Some other markets I thought of interest on the currencies. I was looking at the Euro Canadian dollar here. Don't worry, Mark, when you've been following the markets for 33 years like I have, it starts to get as if you've seen it all, if you know what I mean. I don't know how long you've been following the markets, but yeah, I started in 1987. August 1987, just before the 1987 crash. So that's when I first started. So that was quite an interesting time to be in the markets, just before that that nice crash. Yeah, so this is what I was looking at here on the Euro Canadian dollar. You can probably see what I was thinking at, in that here, this is a 4-hourly chart. You can see we had a nice VS buy setup on a blue MTP trend, but look where that 4-hourly chart, look where the setup unfolded at daily resistance, support, daily support. If I go to the daily chart, clear it all off, this was the last pivot low, right mouse click, decision point. Can you see how we're at DP support? This is what we're looking at for the automatic setups, where we have higher time frame support and resistance. You then come down to the shorter time frame chart to see whether the setups unfolding at those higher time frame support and resistance, confirmed by our MTP trend color. So can you see here how there's your higher time frame daily support? You have a 4-hourly VS buy setup, how this then looks to be a good trade setup. Right mouse click, do your analysis. There's a potential trade setup in the process of being underway. If you go down to a slightly shorter time frame chart, I wonder if we get there. I was hoping to see whether that would be a single correction back down there to do the same kind of things we did on the NQ earlier. Here's your single correction swing. So there's the low. To zoom in a bit, here's your initial move up. Here's the initial move down into the wave to a B. So you do tend to get these single correction swings quite often. Now, whether you actually want to do some kind of trade setup off that, again, it's more dangerous to do that. Where was our target? Our target was off the DP off there, wasn't it? Our target was up there. So you still can construct a potential trade setup as well off that first correction. But of course, because it's a single swing correction, it still could be the A of an A, B, C before then going up. So that's why if you do this kind of thing, you want to bring your stop to break even quicker. Mark, yep, you've had quite a few years in the markets as well. It's amazing once you you go past the first 2 or 3, then 5 years, you think it's a long time. Then you've done 10 years in the markets, and you think it's a long time. Then you get to suddenly 20. It's like, whoa, you feel like you've seen everything. But yep, it's amazing how quickly the years go past. Philippe asked me to have a quick look at soybeans, so we'll have a look at those in a sec as well. I'm guessing you want January soybeans. Right. Actually, we'll have a quick look at January soybeans now, actually. Yeah, Philippe was saying that you got to look at it further out Yeah, further out contracts sometimes to get good trade set up. So he's looking at a January 2021 soybeans. That's what he's looking at. Yeah, this is this W3 or wave 3 trade setup down here that he's looking at. So it's still going up beautifully. So yeah, that's a great long trade setup there. So well done, Philippe. Caught that well. Right, does anyone want to look at any more Forex charts? So I've had to skip through, and there's not many ones of much interest because a few of you want to look at gold. So I think what I'll do is just try to open gold. Whoops. I want a workspace, not a layout, don't I? Gold and crude. Yeah, December gold here. If we look on a slightly longer time frame chart, 4-hourly chart. Yep, quite interesting there. Came in down to a VS buy setup there. Where was that coming in? Oh, it's interesting, coming in at higher time frame support there. Looks like a double bottom on the daily. What was it on the hourly chart? We were looking at the hourly chart last time. So yeah, after that sharp decline down there, be interested to see where that DP sell, excuse me, got a bit of a tickle in my throat here. That DP sell, pity it was on a blue MTP trend because that would have been really nice as well. So would that have been a higher time frame resistance? Let's look at a 4-hourly chart. There's the last pivot high. Well, sort of, maybe just beyond it. That'd be a pity, really. Otherwise, Mark, that would have been a nice, very nice short down there. On crude oil, let's have a look at December. Oh, it's interesting. December has now gone up to the DP resistance we were looking at. Must have been last week when we placed that on. So I wonder if there's any shorter time frame setups coming at that. Not really, but you never know. This may well be an example of what we had on the NQ, and that there's your high there at high time frame resistance. Here's the initial decline down. Is this a single swing correction to there? But you see how it looks at the moment. I mean, it could very well be an A going up to a B, or it could very well be that. But where's our DP from the last swing to the high? Do you see this? There's the high. There's the last swing to the high. So that would be an area of potential support, which actually looks it's more like a wave 3 down there. So if that was a single swing correction into that high, you see how a trade into there or there would probably be a better trade setup if that was a single correction, a single swing correction. Whether it is or not, we don't know. That's why you want to be, if you were looking at that, you want to be bringing your stock to break even pretty quickly just to start to go up. But be very aware it could be on the high side because, as Mark says, if we go out to a 4-hourly chart, whoops. So a high time for a daily chart was what Mark's looking at. Well, we are at resistance there, Mark, on the daily chart on the December contract. TJ, the first correction off a higher time frame support and resistance tends to unfold as an ABC. So the single swing correction we'll be talking about today is less common, but it does happen. So it's a lot less common, but it does unfold sometimes. So that's why I was looking at that today. So Mark, I think we'll have to see what happens there, but you know, we are at DP resistance on the daily chart there, so we will have to see what crude oil does do. Perhaps I need to be a contract month out because we're getting towards the end of November. I shouldn't really be in December, should I now? Because if we look at the front month, this is the continuous, this is the front month continuous. We still are at resistance there, but we'll have to wait and see. No, Lynn, this is a different Mark I've been talking to. He's actually in London in the UK. Right. Is there anything else people would like to look at in the last couple of minutes? Because we're sort of running up to the end of the webinar. So it's been a good webinar today, actually. We've managed to have a look at lots of different things. We've managed to do some advanced analysis on single swing corrections and had a look at longer term positions of the US stock market and some other stuff as well. So hopefully it's been a good webinar for you guys, something a bit more advanced to get your teeth into and a bit more highfalutin kind of discussions to look at. So it's good to be able to take things to higher levels with you guys, particularly as most of you guys who are in the webinar today are quite experienced with MTPredictor. So it's nice to show you some other things you can do just above and beyond just purely the automatic setups. But remember, you have to couch it all in the mindset that you're looking for the higher time frame support and resistance. In other words, you're looking for when the picture's clear, okay? That's the whole paramount that when you do anything. Don't do any of this kind of analysis when the picture's not clear. Don't just try and get any single swing correction when the picture's not clear. If it's not, you will get cut to shreds. So that's why I say that it was good on the NQ to do that yesterday, because it was coming off higher time frame resistance here. Do you see that? That's why this was something to look at, because it came off higher time frame resistance. In other words, only when the picture was clear. That was the only reason to look to do that yesterday. Right. I think that's about it from everybody. So thanks very much for coming in today. And again, hope you've all enjoyed it. So we'll end the webinar there, and the recording will be available in a short while in the member section of the MTPredictor website as normal. But otherwise, have a good trading week, everyone, and we'll see what the markets do today and see if they do indeed carry on going down and leave these highs intact. And we'll see what happens on those. But otherwise, have a good trading week, everybody, and we'll be here to do it all again next week.